Hello, my anatomists, my lovely anatomists and physiologists. Welcome back. We're taking a look here at the structures of the urinary system. And we're looking at a picture of a model that we have in our lab. And what you're seeing here is the abdominal aorta and the inferior vena cava side by side. And then you're able to see both the renal arteries, and the renal vein, respectively coming off of these larger blood vessels. And then we're able to see the kidney, and we have two left and right. Kidney is located in the pelvic cavity. And of course, we have the adrenal gland, which is going to be sitting on top. Extending out of the kidney, you have a tube, which is called the ureter. And the ureter is taking the urine into a structure called the urinary bladder, or just the bladder for short. So let's talk for just a few minutes in general terms about each of these structures. So when we talk about the kidney, this is where urine is produced. And we're going to go into a lot of details about the kidney and about how urine is produced and all of that. So stay tuned. When we talk about the ureter, of course, this is the tube that's connecting the kidney to the bladder. And what we'll see is the urine is moved by peristaltic waves of the smooth muscle in the ureter. We'll see that the angle of entry into the bladder, is going to create what we can describe as a physiological valve. So we don't have a muscle closing off this entryway, but based on the orientation of the ureter to the bladder, this is preventing backflow of urine. We'll see the ureter has goblet cells that are going to produce a protective mucus. And we'll see both the bladder and the ureter are going to be lined with transitional epithelium. If you remember, this epithelial tissue will transition between appearance. So what we'll see is when the tube in the bladder is full, the cells are going to look more squamous shape. And when the bladder and the tube are empty, you're going to have more of a simple columnar appearance. I'm just going to say columnar, not simple. Okay. And so what we're seeing is the epithelial tissue is transitioning and how it appears. When we talk about the bladder, the job of the bladder is going to be to actually store the urine until you can urinate. Your bladder can hold from 500 to 600 milliliters of fluid. And if we take a look at this picture of a slide from our lab, what we're seeing is the cut of the bladder. So this is actually a picture of the urinary bladder here. The inside of the bladder is lined with the transitional epithelium. And this picture is not super clear when I zoom in, so you can't see a lot of detail, unfortunately. We have some connective tissue, and then we have the detrusor muscle, which is a smooth muscle completely surrounding the urinary bladder. And the detrusor muscle will be involved in urination. It'll contract and help force that urine out of the body. Now, the detrusor muscle strength does decline as we get older, but when that's the case, we'll use our surrounding skeletal muscle to help, fill in the gap there. So far we're seeing that urine is being produced in the kidney. It leaves the kidney through the ureter. The ureter takes the urine into the bladder where it can be stored. And then what we'll see is there's a tube that exits the bladder. We call that tube the urethra. Now we'll see that the appearance of the urethra does vary with body type. So up in the corner, I have a sagittal cut of a male body type. In this case, we're able to see quite a few structures, but let's label the bladder. We can see the detrusor muscle surrounding this organ. And then we see the exit tube, which in this case is running through the penis. And the exit tube is called the urethra. And so the significance here is that this body type, you'll see both the urinary and the reproductive tracts coming together in the urethra. So this tube is shared. We will also be seeing in the male body type, we'll see that the urethra goes through a gland called the prostate. And so that will be important. We'll see also that we have a muscle at sort of where the urethra is exiting the bladder, and we call this the internal urethral sphincter. So this is going to be smooth muscle. This is going to be unconsciously controlled. And then in the male body type, we see below the prostate, there's another muscle. And this one is the external urethral sphincter. And this one we do learn to consciously control. If we take a look here at the male body type urethra, we'll see that this tube varies in length, and we'll see it maybe about 20 centimeters long. And this then is quite a bit different than when we're looking at the sagittal cut of the female body type. And here we'll see the urethra is very short in comparison. It's about 4 centimeters long. So in this particular image, we're seeing the bladder. We see the detrusor muscle surrounding the bladder. We see the urethra, which is separate from the reproductive system. So let me go ahead and label the vagina, which is posterior to the urethra. And the urethra in this body type is about 4 centimeters in length. We are seeing here that right where the urethra is coming out of the bladder, we have again the internal urethral sphincter, and I'm not seeing this well represented on the model. Let me go back to label urethra 4 centimeters. I'd say about here and here. So we're maybe a little bit about half the length of the urethra, so still inside the pelvic cavity, the external urethral sphincter, which again is the sphincter that we can learn to unconscious or consciously control. So then if we were to take this opportunity here to trace the flow of urine, we're going to see that the urine is flowing from the kidney, and we're going to add more detail to that, to the ureter, to the urinary bladder, to the urethra, paying attention that this is combined in the male reproductive system, the urinary and reproductive systems, and it's separate in the female body type. And then from the urethra, this is the exit to the body. All right. Stay tuned for our next video. As always, take care of yourselves and each other.